Have you ever heard about the harsh reality of life beyond the age of 80? There's a quiet transition in your 80s where few people discuss topics that go beyond the obvious. Things like slower mornings or birthdays, but the more profound, frequently unsaid changes. It's a period of both knowledge and deep tranquility, and absence of presence and occasionally intense loneliness, as well as if some of those things you're not ready for shifts, they may surprise you, making you question why someone didn't tell me. We're walking in this video through 5 harsh life realities, not to frighten or depress you, but after 80, you just need to provide clarification, because when you anticipate these things, but you're not, you can get ready longer at their mercy to meet them, and you can do so with strength rather than surprise. We'll discuss regarding the body's diminishing circles. It doesn't recover as well as it once did. To the encroaching reliance that seems uncomfortable, even when required, the subtle manner in which society begins to ignore you, and that odd pain that appears when long-standing regrets collide. And there is too little reason to remain here till the conclusion, as some of these truths can be burdensome. But they also reveal the door to a great acceptance, resilience, and an opportunity to influence the last stages of life with the type of no one else has the authority to define dignity. But let's discuss what actually occurs after the age of 80 and how to deal with it with steady hands, open eyes, and your head raised high as a social leader. Circle that stealthily vanishes. One of after 80, the first truths that set in is relational rather than physical. The people that used to be all around you start to frequently vanish without warning. Pals, siblings go away from neighbors and become silent. Even lifelong friends who used to call start phoning a few people each week. Months. It's simply time, it's not personal. However, it leaves an area that feels hollow, regardless of how powerful or you are self-sufficient. You wake up waking up and discovering the phone doesn't, as the invitations used to ring. Reduce the length of family visits and slow them down. People who are more hurried still adore you, but they are occupied, preoccupied, or coping with their own aging in various manners, and gradually the routine exchanges that formerly made your life prosperous with the laughter and voices begin to fade. People don't prepare you for this. Most folks in their 60s and even 70s are still present, and energy is moving. Check-ins. Although there is a shift after 80 as you start to outlive others, you start to surpass discussions, and that change is so silent that initially I was unaware that it had occurred, but I knew a Walter, 84, was a man who used to visit mornings at the same coffee shop. The staff was aware of his order for years. Without texting, buddies met him there. It was a rhythm at first, but eventually those buddies stopped visiting after a while. Some simply stopped, while others moved. Walter told me while traveling one day, "It's odd to enter a location where your name was formerly well known, but now the man in the corner is everything that you are." Booth. The agony of such a loneliness doesn't always sound loud. Always arrive with tears or obvious sorrow. Sometimes there's merely a long period of silence after a meal or a stroll that seems a bit too silent. It's becoming apparent that the list of those who truly understand you is getting shorter, and it's unstoppable, but understanding this fact enables you to open a new account because of it. Doors, even after you've been shut out by others, can continue to communicate as you see fit, whether through a weekly luncheon organized by a Christian group. You can start a mail or a phone call. Since there is no connectivity after 80 to you as it used to be, it takes courage to go for it, but you've previously reached this point. You have the second strongest body in the world. That ceases to rebound by the time your body doesn't whisper when you reach 80. Expresses the minor pains that used to arrive and depart, but now linger. The exhaustion that previously subsided with a snooze may continue into the following day, and the reality that surprises a lot of folks is this: even a minor health issue at 80? Issues have the power to drastically alter your life. You may feel fine when you wake up, and by nightfall, something feels off, some lightheadedness, a leg ache, and cough that persists for more than anticipated, and all of a sudden you're sitting and hearing phrases like these in a waiting room: tracking imaging or potential admission. What was formerly dismissed with repose wants attention right now, and frequently there's no going back to the previous state of affairs. Isn't that what makes this stage so challenging? Only the physical discomfort, it's the unpredictable. You are capable of anything appropriately, eat healthily, move slowly, and get your sleep, but still feeling as though your body is one step ahead of your decision-making. You refuse to accept a mistake on the stairs may result in weeks of recuperation. A stomach bug can cause you to feel exhausted for days. Even after you are better, don't always get your balance back to normal. May feel strange, and your breathing may take extra work. The recovery isn't what I used to know. A woman by the name of Gloria, 81, was a bright, lively, and proud person. Of her autonomy, she enjoyed caring for her garden in the backyard while strolling the neighborhood, continuing to interact with her book club. However, following slight mishap while everything changed when a rose bush was trimmed. It wasn't the wound, but rather the following weeks of relaxation became months when her strength was diminished. Lack of confidence. I believed I was merely, she said, taking a break, yet my body regarded it as a complete stop, saying, that's the nobody informs you at 80 that repose is not always healing in the same manner, that may become declining if you're not cautious, and occasionally even when you'll be cautious if your body slows down. You know you're not bouncing, though. You are adjusting to the future, yet here's the power to begin knowing this, taking better care of your energies. Don't be afraid to pace yourself. But out of consideration for your body has supported you as you manage your health, not as a promise but rather as a daily engagement in a spiritual practice. And when you do that, even if you lose the bounce, walking more slowly stabilizes your footing. But more conscious, you sleep for longer but more purposefully, and you start to realize that a slower body is nonetheless capable of carrying a, if you're still watching, powerful spirit. Watching this film and discovering these revelations important, kindly provide the second comment below to inform me of your presence and whether I suggest you. If you haven't, turn on the bell and subscribe so you don't overlook any footage. Your assistance is invaluable. Keep us producing quality information to educate and motivate you, then let's go. Third, there is an increasing need for assistance regardless of your level of independence. Among the most difficult medicines to swallow, do you begin to require assistance after the age of 80? For items you previously did not, believing that it doesn't occur all at once, it silently and gradually infiltrates until one the day you realize you're not getting high cabinets and you're clinging to railing a bit more tightly. You're reluctantly stepping behind the wheel on a wet day, and despite that, you still feel capable in part, but another. Some things aren't as simple as others. What makes this reality now? It's not simply the physical adjustment that's challenging. It's the sentimental one for individuals who have spent decades caring for others. Consider taking on the role of the one in need of assistance, which can make you feel quite uncomfortable. You might begin to feel burdensome, or you might start concealing your limitations. Not telling and skipping the grocery trip you stumbled while attempting to fix the light bulb by yourself, despite the fact that your shoulder has been aching for weeks. The will to remain self-sufficient doesn't go away. If anything, it gets more powerful. But after 80 looks, the truth is independence. It's not the same as it was at 60. About handling things by yourself. Being aware of when to seek assistance, and I knew a man who was courageous enough to embrace it. Eugene, 85, who took great satisfaction in he has spent his life doing everything by himself. Raised 4 children during the war and constructed his own shed in the backyard with only spare wood and perseverance. Yet during one winter he slipped on his slippery driveway, but it wasn't damaged. He kept his damaged pride to himself. Only his daughter saw it. She began to notice a change. Appearing once a week to deliver groceries and first remaining for coffee. Eugene would answer, "I'm fine," but coffee became a ritual over time. And he finally made an admission. It's great not to be shocked, even by him. Carrying everything by yourself, that's the change. Wisdom, not weakness. Being aware that taking assistance is not a loss of independence, it serves as a safeguard. The reason that when you let someone drive you up the steps or assist you in take that bulky bag or go to the doctor. In fact, you're giving yourself more years of focusing on what really matters, and not all assistance must come from those who can be a stool in the shower or a grab bar in a reminder on the refrigerator in the kitchen. These minor aids do not detract from your dignity, which is maintained after the age of 80. The most courageous thing you can say could merely be the phrase, "I could use a hand," due to your strength increasing with age. By prioritizing peace above ego and safety over battle and bonding over loneliness, the world begins with the 4th presence. To ignore one of the more excruciating after age 80, the realities of life aren't about your memory or your physique is what matters. Presence. Gradually, you start to sense invisible to those who care about you perhaps, but to the global community, that the cashier glances beyond you, to the individual the doctor behind you speaks to your grown-up child rather than you. The waiter at the eatery believes you are unable to hear or consider or make your own judgment. it's subtle. Initially, then it starts to happen more often. And even if you attempt to ignore it, it lands in a deep place because, regardless of our age, we still desire to be seen. And after you've worked and lived your entire life, make choices while raising a family. It's startling to be ignored during storms. Simply due to the fact that your skin has crumpled, or the thing that hurts more than your graying hair is that it's rarely intended maliciously. Slow steps are still forgotten in a fast-paced world. Convey tales that a community is fixated on young people who lose sight of the strength required to grow to this age, and unless you communicate, you run the risk of shrinking rather than because you've lost your voice. But others have stopped as I listen. I think of a woman named Irene, 86, who worked as a volunteer at a nearby museum one day. A guest posed a query to the employees. She could have responded while she was asleep. After all, she experienced that exact 10 years of history, yet the query, when I asked her, she immediately skipped past her. How she was feeling, she simply grinned and stated, "I'm used to it." However, there was a sense of sadness in that grin that originates from being viewed as furnishings rather than fire. However, you are not furniture. Background, you're still here. Consider continuing to contribute, and simply because people occasionally forget, that doesn't require you to. So what can you do? Do you talk in any method you ask? Queries you pose, the viewpoints you vote, you tell your tales even if there isn't. Despite your knees, one asks you to stand up. Wobbling, since each time you assert yourself, you remind the world of the space in the room. And reminding yourself that you're not finished yet, you are a live being, you are not invisible. Library as an observer of time and a voice that is still important, and you don't need to be heard, you must shout. Don't go away. If you're still viewing this video and discovering these excellent insights, kindly provide the comment number. Tell me you're here by placing 4 below. Additionally, if you haven't signed up yet, I advise you to sign up and activate the bell to ensure that you don't miss any of your support. It enables us to keep producing quality material to educate and motivate you. Right now, let's be on with number 5. Of remorse if the objective isn't reframed as you enter your 80s in an odd way. Not just at your house, silence descends. Or your timetable, but inside your own life slows down, the calendar is less packed, and along with that slowness, there is room for think back on the replay. That can be lovely. But if you're not cautious, it can become heavier rather than the quiet sort, the loud dramatic kind, and I would have liked to have spent more time with them. Why didn't I take the risk at the time? Had the sort of appearance that occurs when you don't always have the energy, but you have time. Or the ability to accomplish the things you used to. People shouldn't put this off. Discuss a lot and honor the knowledge of growing older, the liberty of retirement, the grandchildren's happiness, and everything else is genuine. But so is the unanswered question. Something frequently remains unsaid. What if you have worked all your life? Running, raising, serving, and then everything pauses, and it may seem like I knew a man whose purpose is vanishing with it. Stanley, 88 was his name, and he was a teacher. After retiring, he worked for more than 40 years. Felt both proud and oddly empty. He once commented, "One needs me anymore," but he simply hadn't yet. Therefore, that wasn't accurate. Discovered a new method to be required because purpose doesn't die, it evolves. Perhaps you no longer construct homes, but you gain self-assurance in your excellent grandchildren with your tales. Perhaps you, instead of presiding over meetings, you lead with presence throughout a period of grief. You don't resolve major issues, yet you alleviate loneliness by making others smile. The risk of regret, isn't it, neighbor? You have made mistakes, everyone does. If you spend too much time sitting in them without transforming them into something significant. However, when you reinterpret purpose, it's not as productivity, but as you start to be present, to acknowledge how much you still have to donate, not only to other people but also to yourself, as the most crucial task. You might not do it for legacy after you're 80. Or cheering. It can be this awakening with compassion in your heart and interest in your eyes and the guts to inquire, how can I provide some light today, even if it's only a little? That isn't remorse. Redemption, and there's always time to consider it. Your last thoughts as you approach your 80s is not a minor matter. It is a landmark constructed on the endeavor to change decades of love, loss, and tenacity, yet with that power presents new difficulties, some of which are subtle. Others are difficult to ignore, and must deal with these. Reality doesn't weaken you, rather, it makes you. You've lived a long life, if you're honest. Enough to recognize the true nature of life, erratic, occasionally unjust, but still quite valuable to attend. Thus, which of you were most affected by these 5 facts? Was it the quiet that results from the social world starts to get smaller? Anger with a body that doesn't recuperate as if it were accustomed to the pain of need assistance after spending a lifetime serving as the assistant, or perhaps it was the unseen sensation that arises when the world is moving too quickly to see you, or the pain that intensifies when your goal seems unclear now. Whatever it was, that I hope you feel heard, since the reality is you're not by yourself in any of this. Slowing down does not mean forgetting. Not in the inquiries that keep you up at night or the times that define you wonder what will happen next, and this is the positive news even at this point. You have the freedom to select connection, you have the option to rest. Decide to seek assistance, you can decide to, when someone ignores you, speak up. And more kind when someone is in need of your kindness. You have the option to pardon yourself for what didn't occur and respect yourself. Because this stage of life isn't the deepest section of the story, is in the end. The section where each word matters, the area where minor gestures have greater significance. Grand ones never completed the section where your tolerance, your presence, and your viewpoint, these turn into your strength. We are grateful that you could join us today. Please leave a remark below to hear from you. And mention one item you discovered today, and the way you intend to apply it in your daily life. Your opinions are valued by us. Thus, share the reading with them without hesitation. Your remarks greatly inspire us. And support if you found this enjoyable. If you thought it was useful, please like, share your support and subscribe. Us keep producing quality information to educate and motivate you. Thank you for observing, and we anticipate seeing you in the upcoming video.